One Punch Man Season 2 is the follow-up season to the incredibly successful Season 1 of One Punch Man. As Saitama tries to reach higher rankings in the Hero Association, a new enemy who goes by the name Garo the Hero Hunter is out hunting down every S-rank hero possible in order to become the strongest warrior. I really loved the first season of One Punch Man. I thought it was absolute perfection with the animation, the action, the story. Everything about that first season worked in so many ways than I could have ever imagined, and still holds up to this day. So you would be wondering, did I watch season 2 at its premiere? No, I didn't. I didn't watch it until more recently, before season 3 came out. Mainly due to the fact that I heard not a lot of good things about it, and that the animation was like really bad and unsalvageable and stuff like that. Then I decided, you know what? I'm gonna sit down, give season 2 a shot, and just see what all the fuss is about. It is not as good as season 1. I will say that. It is not as good as season 1 in terms of the animation, the pacing, the sound design. However, this is not a bad season. I still think the story is very interesting. I still think a lot of the characters are really entertaining. And in terms of the animation, while not being as good as season 1, still has plenty of great animated fight sequences that look honestly beautiful, especially when you compare it to what we're getting right now, but we'll talk about that when the time comes. But with this second season, yes, the animation is not as good, and I think I do have some of the same problems that most people do with the animation and style of the show of this season. Everything feels too glossy. Everything is shiny. Everything has a glossy look to it. The metal textures on everything look way too weird and unnatural in many ways. Overall, I think the stylistic change was a bit off, and they should have cleaned up a lot of the blur effects. I don't know why they have that. It makes some of the drawings look a bit unfinished and dirty, but overall, I still think the drawing quality was fine despite a few inconsistent face translations from the manga that do look a bit weird proportion wise, but they weren't anything that took me out of the show. If anything, the animation here is like a 7 out of 10. Can be great when it needs to be, but in the quieter moments, it is just passable and works well enough. In terms of the story, this is where I believe the show still really shines the brightest. The story is still really engaging. The introduction to Garo as his hero hunter is going out to try and fight against any kind of hero that comes across him, just to be able to prove a certain point that I won't spoil about, I think was very fascinating. I found Garo to be quite possibly one of the most interesting anti-heroes or anti-villains in anime, because he's a character that is on neither side. In many ways, the Monster Association are the real main antagonists, as so many monsters are popping out, like Phoenix Man, or this Dracula monster, or this lady with a whip that Fubuki tries to fight against in the later half of the season. All these monsters are emerging that are setting up for a big confrontation with all the S-class heroes and them and the Monster Association. And I think that aspect of Garo and how he is playing with both sides in order to prove his point about the weak being to be recognized more, and how his uprising as a child made him who he is today with that kind of ideology was really interesting. Everything about Garo here was honestly one of my favorite parts of the season, especially when he's in battle mode and he's fighting up against all these heroes. Like, yes, episode 2, his introduction was really intimidating, but it wasn't until episode 3 when he goes up against the Tank Top Master and Moomin Rider to where he really shows his full strength and how scary he can be. It really proves himself as a formidable antagonist. As for the character Saitama, he's still as funny and engaging as always, though he's probably a lot less plot relevant when you compare him to the previous season. For the most part, he's still doing his thing, trying to be a hero for fun, trying to reach up higher ranks as he is trying to be one of the S-Class heroes and be noticed by the world. And while that is slowly happening, he is also starting to find other passions, including martial arts. And so he goes into this martial arts tournament to where he fights up against so many other martial artists here, including this really powerful one that I don't remember the name to, honestly, but he's a very cocky bastard that just doesn't have any respect for heroes. And this kind of matchup, while you know how the end of the battle is going to turn out because it's Saitama, he's going to defeat him in one punch. It's the ideology that these characters have against each other that makes this whole fight very interesting. And having Saitama try to learn all these different karate moves while trying to one-shot everyone to be able to get to the biggest and best fighter was really fun stuff. And how this segment of the season ended when these two characters tried to find common ground with one another was honestly really One Punch Man like in terms of the emotions and how powerful Saitama is as a hero and how he's able to motivate everyone to be the better version of themselves. The best example of that is actually in the first episode of season 2, to where we find out that King is basically a fraud. He isn't a powerful hero, he's just a gaming otaku that just finds himself in these situations. And the backstory between him and Saitama and how these two characters connect was honestly really sweet and actually had me really enjoying King's character even more than I thought I would. Because while it could seem as a cop-out for this character to be pretty wimpy, how the show decides to progress this character and have us watch King's character develop to be a different kind of hero who's still going out there to do what he can to help people, especially by the end when he goes up against a centipede and he's doing whatever he can to distract him in order for Saitama to land that final blow. It's honestly really great stuff. I also really enjoyed the introduction of Fubuki, who is this B rank hero, the highest of B rank, that's trying to find her way in the hero situation, trying to find her purpose, and she's not really knowing what she wants to be at this point. And it's not until she meets Saitama and he humbles her a bit in a fight in a previous episode, to where we see her develop to be a more mature woman who has a better respect for heroes as the season goes on, especially when she goes up against threats that are definitely more powerful than her. All in all, the story here, the characters are still engaging. It is not as good as season 1 in terms of the animation, as I said, but still the music hits pretty well. The animation for the most part is good and even great at times, just not at season 1 level. Some sound effects could have been done a lot better, to be honest, but all in all, I still think this is a good season of One Punch Man that is, in my opinion, a bit underrated. And I think now with season 3 out, we're getting a better appreciation for this season, and I'm glad that's happening because this season isn't all that bad. is just not as good as season 1. But it still has an engaging story, has engaging characters, great music. I love the Garo theme, and I'm a Hero. That score is absolutely perfect. One of my favorite scores in the entire One Punch Man series. I'm going to give One Punch Man Season 2 a B+. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you guys next time.